Hey Olivia, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm great. A lot of people are looking forward to hear about you, about the Alliance, everything that you do. But maybe first start to tell us a little bit about yourself, even before, so people will get the background about you.
Sure. My name's Olivia. I'm editor at Fintech Alliance. I come from a kind of business writing and content background. I worked in B2B magazines for a couple of years and just got really interested in fintech as a whole and all the changes it was bringing and the potential to build products that work for everyone around the world. And so about a year ago when Fintech Alliance launched, I joined as editor. And it's been, a really busy year, lots of changes, obviously working for a startup, but I really enjoy it. And some of the things I do are looking after content on our website, so keeping the whole community up to date with what's going on, helping them to promote what they're doing. Also lately, because of COVID, been running a lot of kind of webinars and different things like that. So yeah, just really enjoying things at the moment, but it's been a hectic few months, as I'm sure it has for everyone.
Yes, yes. I see you as a resource, as a power knowledge for all these, trends in fintechs, everything that's going on around the world, not even in the UK, also outside. But yeah, let's dive in of what you were saying. I mean, I want to talk to you about so many topics like open banking and open API of banks and stuff like that. So what do you see in the potential? Because we had some fintechs in open banking. So what do you see in that spec?
I think the interesting part around open banking and around API capabilities is in allowing banks to kind of add different features to serve customers. So it's allowing those technology platforms to speak to each other and enabling that collaboration. I guess the beauty of allowing people to plug things in really quickly means you can try things out. If they don't work, which we often find in fintech, we're not afraid to say, we failed and we try something else. And I think that's been really enabled by API adoption. I think if you can organize your capabilities into that network, you can plug in existing features and you don't have to kind of start from scratch. And I think a lot of banks, when they try to obviously change what they're doing, they're faced with these legacy systems they have to overhaul. But I think with neobanks as well, they aren't yet becoming a true competitor, I would say, to the incumbents. They're kind of working alongside them. So it's important for them to make their mark by, I guess, adding in and plugging in new features. So we hear from the likes of Revolut are kind of developing a super app and trying to add in all these different things to attract new customers. And I think that's where the API and open banking come in, where you can merge the more traditional bank and the neobank together.
What can you say about open banking in general in the UK? Like
Um,
what phase is it at?
I think it probably hasn't been adopted to the potential it can be yet. I think we've recognized its purpose now, but I think there's still a lot more we can do. And I think most people I speak to are saying, particularly the banks haven't really adopted it to its highest potential yet. But I think there's a lot of interesting conversations I've heard around it. I think now I think while people move even closer to digital solutions now because of obviously COVID and everything that's been going on recently, I'm hoping that people will see that potential a bit more. But I think particularly we have seen a lot of adoption with companies that work to provide services for financial institutions, and it enables them to really plug in the right way and create things that are bespoke and that can be put into practice very quickly.
And in general about neobanks and neobanks during COVID, you're doing so many reports, right? Something you
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of research going on there. I think COVID has made everyone stop and think from a consumer perspective, how do they manage their finances? No one wants to really go into a branch anymore. A lot of people are turning to digital. And I think also just with people either being, unfortunately, having lost their jobs or even being furloughed, people are at home and they're really putting thought into what they do with their money. Some people have extra disposable income they want to save. So all of that has really driven this adoption. But I think there was a new report that we are working with a company called EPAM to kind of promote, and it's come out today, and it really shows neobanking adoption's still quite slow around the world. And while lots of people are interested, there's very, very few people who will actually switch their account to a neobank still. I think they found about 82% are happy, or at least slightly happy with their current bank. And I think it's probably, you probably feel the same way where, oh, I'm not entirely happy with my bank, but even if I'm not really going to switch over because it's a lot of hassle and things. So it's for neobanks, again, as I said, to add in those features that are quite specific and that people will use alongside their bank. And I think also making that adoption and onboarding really easy. I've heard a lot of stories recently about digital ID and digital verification services because people want to just be able to set up their bank account without having to go into a branch. Over the past few years, that's been increasing due to people just not wanting to bother, but now it's a real, fear of going into a branch for some people.
So on the one side, you're saying that a lot of people still are not moving that fast to the neobanks, but then you're also saying that COVID and digital identity, as you said. So for people who don't know, what does it mean?
Digital identity. So these are kind of the ways that we verify who somebody is without actually, I suppose, having to see them and have that conversation with them. So there's lots of companies that work on things like perhaps being able to scan your passport or driver's license in, and the way that you can now, if you wanted to be with Monzo or Revolut or whoever, you can just take a selfie and upload it, and they'll show who you are. So it just makes it a lot easier for people, and I think that's where people will start trying out new challenges and seeing which one suits them, because the application process isn't going to take weeks and weeks, because I think that's when people really lose interest.
Yes. Do you see the struggle of these neobanks, with their financials, their situation? Maybe a lot of them will not survive, right? There's a neobank for everything. There are niche neobanks for the freelancers, for the SMEs. We have so many even here in this summit,
Yeah, no, I think it's a really difficult time at the moment. We're seeing kind of decrease in investment, although it's kind of picked up again a little bit now. But I think it's the chance really now for fintechs to prove their resilience, because I think it's their first big challenge, I guess, that they've come across. They came out kind of after a lot of fintechs came out, after we had the recession and the financial crisis, and now this is their first big crisis they've had to deal with. So I think what will happen is we'll see which ones were more resilient, but I think what will also happen will be a lot of partnering, and those with a really innovative solution that the banks and consumers see value in, they will probably partner with a larger and more resilient company to kind of take that forward.
So how do you see the role of your organization? Because I know you're doing a lot during these times. Like, what is your voice, your unique voice? What is the focus?
Sure. Well, I think we were reasonably well equipped because we are a fully digital ecosystem. We had been running some physical events, but thankfully we weren't an organisation that relied on physical events, which would have been obviously a different story. But yeah, we're basically, just to give you a bit of background on Fintech Alliance, we're a government-backed digital ecosystem, and we aim to promote the whole UK fintech sector. So anyone who's involved in fintech, whether that's a large bank or a technology company or these fintech unicorns, or even a small startup who's just kind of at their kind of pre-seed stage. We have a massive I think we're about 200 strong now, and we have a big ecosystem with all these different companies. We see our role as really bringing them together. It's a very interactive platform, so companies can go on there, they can talk to each other. Our goal is that at the moment, we're obviously nurturing them, but we really want them to kind of build their own relationships as well, and we can kind of take a step back from that, I suppose. And we provide access to education. We're developing a mentoring hub. We also have a diversity hub to help companies become more inclusive. We have news and insights, which is kind of my baby, I guess, in a way. I send out the newsletter every day and once a week, whether people like it or not. So they see me pop up all the time, but it's just to kind of give an easily digestible view of what's going on, in the UK and around the world. So we've been live for about a year now. Since
a year? I thought more.
Yeah, exactly.
You're everywhere. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, it's been a really quick kind of period of growth, I guess, especially the last few months as everything's gone online. And we're also there for individuals as well, just to, I guess, learn more about fintech. So But that's been, it's been a challenge with COVID to kind of feel we have a big responsibility to our community, and it's kind of identifying what they need at the moment and how we can help them.
Amazing. Yeah, what do they need exactly, like during these times? I mean, of course, the even the hub is the information, is the communication, everything that you're providing them, and even the small thing, like the newsletter, a lot of these fintechs, they need to be educated, about features, about trends, where is it going? There's so much to learn. That's why we have the Fintech Nation Summit, because you can find things in other nations. We interviewed so many right today, and from Singapore, from Hong Kong. By the way, they're all looking at the UK. So I mean, when I asked about open banking, everybody gives me the examples of the UK, because the UK created it, right? Um, so what can you tell me about the industry, the diverse industry that you have in the UK that we can learn from you?
Sure. Well, I think the UK has a lot of great points in terms of fintech. We have a supportive regulator. We've obviously always been a leader in financial services, which, is becoming fintech, I guess. But I think it's also a very collaborative environment. And that's one thing that I personally really enjoy about working in this space. People are very happy to kind of share ideas, and whereas traditional tech and traditional financial services maybe wouldn't be so collaborative. So I think that's really important. And I think, like you say, there's so many new things happening all the time. I was speaking on a panel this week with Newfound Market Missions about kind of what should people do if they're looking to come in the UK. And my main kind of advice I gave was just get involved in that community, reach out to people, do your networking, because you're never going to kind of learn everything about fintech from reading a book or taking a course, because it's changing like so quick. As you say, there's so many different things coming out. And so the best way is really to be engaged in that platform. I think that's been kind of my main role throughout all of this. From my point of view, we've really been busier than ever from lockdown. I've connected with more and more people, but it's about making that content accessible to everyone. There's also maybe a little bit of fatigue around content because there's so much out there, isn't there? So I think you have to make it easy for people to really cut through the noise and find what they need to know. And the kind of network in that creative way, which I suppose like you guys are doing here as well.
Yeah, because it's also a matchmaking summit. People are being matched by their needs. They're seeing us right now, but some of us are not seeing us, and they have a one-on-one meeting right now, which is totally okay because of their needs, and that's I think what's unique here. And I want to say something about you, that you were super approachable. Like when you heard about us and I approached you immediately, how can I help? How can I, bring more content? How can I? And I don't know if it's in general about the UK, but I'm so happy that people like you are sharing the knowledge, sharing the information, collaborating. You did so many panels. I don't know. I'm seeing you all over.
Oh yeah, I mean you've caught me at the end of a week of different panels, so I'm well into the swing of it now. Yeah, I mean I think it's important. I think, like you say, you get the newsletter and things like that, and people just, when we were doing physical events, people say, "Oh, I know you," kind of through emails and things like that. And it's really important. I think what's one thing that has surprised me actually working in kind of the London fintech space is, even though we have all this technology and things like that, people still want to get to know you as a person. So whether you're the founder or like me, you're kind of working in an ecosystem, people want to know the person behind it, and they want to know you on a kind of human level, I think. So yeah, you have to be kind of approachable. But I think in my job as well, I definitely see myself as a facilitator. This is one of the only times I've actually been interviewed myself, because normally I'm the one who's saying, well, these 4 people are all smarter than me and they know more than me, so how can I get them to share their knowledge? So yeah, it's important to make it as easy as possible for
now
people
we're
to do
getting
that.
the knowledge from you, from all these panels. So if you can think for one thing about the future trends, stuff that you heard recently that you want to share with our audience that I didn't think of, something new.
Sure, I think there's a big opportunity here to think about underserved markets. That's something that I've always been very interested in. I think when we look around the world, we look at kind of developing markets and how we're dealing with the different kind of levels of technology that everyone's at. But I think even here in the UK, there's some people who are underserved. I think when we think about, we talked about digital onboarding and all that, and that's amazing. But then you think about maybe older people who aren't comfortable with that.
So
And I think many, yeah, and I think you've got many people being underserved due to kind of poor credit history. They don't really trust the mainstream banks. They haven't had a good experience in the past, and a lot of people not being tech savvy. So I think there's still a lot we need to do in terms of developing these solutions that really work for everyone and not leaving anyone behind. And I think that's where fintech has a really big opportunity. And we mentioned with neobanks being able to plug in solutions really quickly and stuff can help with that. Even throughout COVID, we had some examples of companies bringing out kind of carers cards so that people can go and shop on behalf of vulnerable people and things like that. And I think it's just an example of something that probably could have been done quickly a while ago, but wasn't. But it's now kind of been fast tracked. So for me, that's really interesting to see that we take a more holistic view of financial services in general. And maybe we've shown we're capable of introducing all these bells and whistles, but actually which ones will help people that really need it.
some known buzzwords or terms like from open banking to open finance. Um, educate our audience here for some who don't know. Bank as a service, a lot of, buzzwords that we are hearing here and there. If you can explain to us.
Yeah, I think you're talking about, I guess, the future models, what banks will look like in the future. And I mean, I don't know. None of us, I think, know yet. But there's a lot of interesting ideas, as you say. Will it be banking as a service, where banking is allowing other companies to kind of create these different products and services for people? I think I'm quite interested in kind of banking as a marketplace as well, which kind of would involve plugging in these different features and allowing people to choose, their different financial products from one platform.
I forgot embedded finance, which is another term.
Embedded finance, yeah, of course. So, and again, with embedded finance, what will banking look like in a few years? Everything seems to be moving onto the same platforms now. So will it be we'll use Facebook or WhatsApp or anything like that to do banking? And I think that's what a lot of people want. A lot of studies I've read and just people I've spoken to want to be able to they want choice, basically. They want to be able to say, oh well, this is my preferred platform, I like using WhatsApp, I like using maybe voice technology, so that's how I want to bank. And I think that's what we're moving towards, having to give those options to people, which I think will be a real challenge because everyone's going to want something different, as always happens. So you need to allow people to feel like they're talking to a human, but maybe they don't want to talk to a human, as none of us Generation Z and millennials seem to want to do, so they don't want to pick up the phone. So I think that's really interesting. But where you talk about these kind of different banking models, and particularly like banking kind of marketplace and things like that, I think it'll be interesting to see how consumers respond to those and what consumers actually want, because I don't think we're fully clear on that yet.
Yeah, maybe we should have the next year's interview with you and see where
we were right.
Yeah. See where all these trends and how did we shift to more of these services. I mean, COVID is a big shift, but there will be other waves and shifts. And we are both, so passionate about all these things. We are reading it and learning every second, every day on LinkedIn, right? And collecting the data. Curiosity, basically, because there's so much out there all over the world, also in other markets. All these super apps, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting, and I think there's, the UK has this great place of London's being a fintech hub, and we're top in financial services and all these lists. But you begin to see other countries kind of creeping up there and other cities. So I think it just shows that we can't kind of rest on our laurels and we can't be relaxed about this. And then something like a pandemic happens, and you kind of realize that you can't predict anything that's going to go on in the next few years. So I just think it's important that we continue to kind of learn from other markets and stuff. Fintech Alliance is hoping to go live in some other markets around the world soon.
Wow. Okay.
I can't kind of announce which ones they are yet, but they will be in line with the Department of International Trade's Fintech Bridges. So just allowing the UK to build up those relationships and collaborate, and allow UK companies to expand and also other companies to come in into the UK, which I think will help in terms of the ideas and the way people look at different challenges too.
You see, this is exactly why we did this summit. This is exactly the segment, the point, the focus, and the voice of the summit is to create these fintech bridges between the fintech nation and share the knowledge and, you know, come together. How do people connect to you, follow you, learn about what you?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, I'm everywhere. You can, so companies can join Fintech Alliance, obviously, but also individuals can join Fintech Alliance. So if you're someone who even just wants to learn a bit more about fintech and find out what we do, you're very welcome to join our platform. Obviously, I'm all over LinkedIn. You can connect with me, and on Twitter, I'm quite active as well, where I talk a lot about what Fintech Alliance are doing, but also some subjects such as financial inclusion and education and
That's
stuff
super important. By the way, we forgot. Yeah, you can say something about that. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, in terms of education, definitely. I think that's really important. I'm very passionate that everyone should feel empowered with their finances and feel educated and know what they're doing, because I think that's the key to kind of, you know, building your own self-esteem and just feeling confident in everything you do is how you manage money. You know, they say money can't buy you happiness, but if you have a good handle on it, then you're on your way to resolving some other problems, I guess, as well. So we actually have a company just yesterday who's announced some funding, Smart Purse, who offer financial education toolkit for women specifically. And they've just recently raised some funding to properly launch their platform. So that's really exciting. I talk a lot about that.
Wow.
Also inclusion in terms of the fintech industry, because I think we mentioned kind of building the right products, but I feel like you can't build the right products if everyone on your team looks the same and is kind of a similar person, right? So we've recently launched the Fintech for All Charter with a company called Inchorus. We did some research with Level 39, Revolut, and Innovate Finance as well, to kind of find out where there were kind of issues in UK fintech of bias and harassment and microaggressions. And we kind of discovered that a lot of it was gender-based in the industry, and a lot of people didn't report incidents because they didn't really know how to, they didn't know what would happen and things like that. So we've put together a charter that fintechs of all shapes and sizes can sign. And it's basically a commitment to, you know, taking responsibility over that and building that into your organization to make sure it is inclusive. Because obviously we talk a lot about diversity in fintech and having more women and more people from different backgrounds and ethnicities. But when they actually get there, you also need to make sure they're included in the environment, right? Because otherwise there's no point in hiring them. So yeah, those are some things we're kind of working on at the moment. And it all kind of just comes down to, I think, necessity really in helping financial services, you know, build the right products for everyone.
I think, yeah, even, you know, there's so much to say about that. And how you see it's really growing, the awareness, the change of the mindset. Do you see that it really works with more organizations maybe? And you mentioned other, you know, alliances, other partners, right? So maybe that's the key to do it, to collaborate.
Yeah, I think it is a necessity now. It's not, you know, it's not just a nice to have anymore, where it's like, oh, it'd be nice to have a diversity initiative that one person looks after or whatever. I think it needs to be built into companies, and people are recognizing that now. And I think where it's working is we're just seeing more examples of diverse groups of people, not huge amounts yet, but, you know, seeing someone, I think for everyone, you know, seeing someone like you doing something in fintech, you think, oh yeah, I could do that, you know. So I think that's what we're trying to achieve really. And from my point of view as an editor, I'm able to kind of promote that, and just to make sure that when we have our panels, we do have that little bit of diversity on there and try and increase that.
Okay, I want to learn. I want to be involved. I think it's super important, and I'm sure that other nations, other people here from other countries can learn about that. You know, it's important everywhere, right? Thank you very much for this very interesting conversation. I learned a lot. I'm sure other people also here. And guys, feel free to reach out. I mean, I reached out and I got you to the summit. So
Exactly, yeah. I will reply eventually, even if it takes me a few days.
I don't
But yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I think I'm really looking forward to hearing from the other speakers.
Great, great. Enjoy the summit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.